Los Arango Reposado Tequila. You can grab it now at the LCBO for $63.15. It is the sponsor of Two Guys Talking Wine for the next little bit.
And we are very happy to have them on board. And we are very happy to have tasted and gone to Mexico and experienced their hospitality and their amazing products.
Once again, Los Arango Reposado Tequila. The tequila-ist tequila of Two Guys Talking Wine. Although for now, it's Two Guys Talking Tequila.
You're listening to Two Guys Talking Wine with Michael Pincus and André Prue.
This episode is a sponsored podcast. It is the third and final part of our sponsored series that we did together with Los Arangos Tequila. And we want to thank them very much for supporting us and bringing us down to Mexico.
Yes, I am very happy.
While they've sponsored us, the views and the tape that we collected belong to us, and we are more than happy to share this story with you. While we are typically Two Guys Talking Wine, we are at the very end of our miniseries of Two Guys Talking Tequila. Hello, Michael.
André, I'll be honest. I never thought we would talk this much tequila.
I never thought that I would enjoy it the way that we have. And, not just because they're sponsoring us, and like this is where, the fact that even though we're sponsored by it, I actually learned a lot and got something out of the trip. I've been drinking a lot of tequila in my house since I got back, just because I really want to hold on to those memories from that trip.
I'm looking forward to a steak and tequila night that I've arranged for the end of June, which is actually an idea that I got from being there. And it was not something I thought I would ever have steak with. I always thought wine would be like the be all and end all for a steak.
Yeah, I was like very, very pleasantly surprised on that first trip while we were there. This is when we met Rafael Berardi, who we're going to be interviewing later on in the episode. We ate at the very nice hotel that we stayed at in Guanajuato. One of the items on the menu that really stood out for me was skirt steak with pinto beans on the side and grilled peppers on it. And like for me, it was, the essence of really great Italian cuisine. And Michael, I don't think you can even disagree with me on this because I know you know a lot more about Italy and Italian cuisine in general, is the simplicity, but it needs to be simple ingredients with high quality ingredients. And it was a beautiful, perfect cut of meat. I love skirt steak. It's, one of the not as popular cuts, but like it's got like the right amount of fat. It's really, really flavorful. It was seasoned with salt, no pepper, just salt. Served on top were two peppers. I can't give you the specific variety. One was a mild sweet pepper with a crunchy skin and not too much flesh to it. The other one was a green pepper that was one of the spiciest things I've ever eaten, and I definitely regretted it a little bit the next day, but didn't regret it at the moment. On the side was just like a plain like pinto beans. I was actually able to recreate that by buying like a really nice can of La Costeña pinto beans here in Hamilton, opening it up next to skirt steak when I was able to try to recreate the meal. I couldn't find the peppers, but I found the beans. And then we got served with that a really nice glass of 99,000 horas, 99,000 hours añejo tequila on ice. And the way that the tequila married with that beautiful cut of steak was one of the best spirit and food pairings I've ever had. And we've been on this podcast for a long time talking about how a lot of these like really specific wine and food pairings are kind of nonsense because everybody's mouths work different. But this is something I'm looking forward to enjoying again and again.
I too had a steak. I think I had a sirloin that night. And I too was kind of surprised. Like there was an idea originally, are we going to have wine or are we going to have tequila? And our host said, no, let's do tequila. Let's do it over ice. And it seemed like, we had just finished some margaritas, which is how we started the evening. We did margaritas with the appetizers, and that was lovely. And then when he said we're going to do over ice with steak, I just kind of went, I don't know if I'm going to enjoy that.
Yep.
And straight, like, I mean, over ice, obviously on the rocks, but
not in a cocktail.
No mixer, no anything.
Yeah.
And it was just, as you said, it was like a heavenly moment where you're like, this can work.
So, okay, when we got off the plane and we got to the hotel, we unpacked a little bit. This was well before dinner. One thing that, wasn't surprised about, but was like pleased to see, was that margaritas are definitely on the menu everywhere. So, if you're drinking margaritas in your backyard this summer, it is not Tex-Mex if you like enjoying a little bit of authentic culture outside of the country. Margaritas, definitely part of authentic Mexican culture that we got to experience.
And there seems to be two schools of thought with margaritas.
Well, there are two schools of thought at our table.
On ice or crushed
ice, like in a blender, like slushy style, like a daiquiri or something,
like a slushy.
Yeah,
it really was just kind of a like a slushy that you'd get at 7-Eleven.
Yeah.
So, but it was really, I admit, we tried both, and
I liked it better. I like it better on the rocks. I like it better just on ice.
I think I was more on the rocks. Our host said he liked it because of the creaminess of the slushy ice. I just found it got lost.
So, you know what? This is where, before we get into the other nitty-gritty part of the episode, I'm going to play some like smart music under me while I go over some definitions here, and then we're going to do what everyone, I'm sure, has been waiting for, which is tasting notes. All right, let's run the music. From what we saw, there are 4 main types of tequila. Blanco, which has seen no barrel aging, and you can tell from the color it is crystal clear and has a very strong agave flavor. It also is a little bit sharper on the palate. Reposado. If you see reposado, that means it's been aged a minimum of 60 days in some sort of oak vessel. Los Arango is aged in really large, I guess they almost look like the open top fermenters that we might see at a winery, but they are not open topped. Añejo, which is tequila that has been aged a minimum 1 year in barrels. At Los Arango, they are using barriques, about 225 liters. And then there is extra Añejo, aged a minimum of 3 years. And we'll end the music here, and we'll dive into those a little bit.
That's very good, Andre. I think you nailed it. I think you did it. Yeah.
And, okay, so as much as I've been loving the Los Arango Reposado, I did have some tequila from some other brands that I picked up because the Blanco for Los Arango isn't available at the LCBO. Our traveling partner...
Not yet. We're hoping that it comes in. We really are. Our
traveling partner, Ihor, everywhere we went, asked for a margarita made with Blanco. And most of the places we went, I think, had higher-end liquor selection because all we could get was a margarita with reposado, and margarita with reposado is pretty damn good. But when I got home and started making margaritas with Blancos, Ihor, you were right. You really get that really strong agave flavor. Having the Cointreau, I've been using Cointreau triple sec, and actually at Michael Kingma, who is part of Interbev, which is the agency that represents and the distributor of Los Arango at the LCBO, told me that you can do it with Grand Marnier, which is a little more expensive, but I did try it. Oh my God, is it good? But it makes for a very expensive margarita. But
I think Michael Kingman has an expensive taste.
But Blanco is definitely a great way to enjoy a margarita if you really want that agave to come through. The Reposado definitely takes a bit of the edge off, and I think can be a little dangerous on a hot day. You probably drink a lot of them without even noticing.
I'm gonna go outside of the margarita and just talk about it straight, because what we did at some point was we tried every one of these straight. Well, there's 3 of them.
Yeah, okay, I messed up. You're right. This was actually probably what we should have done.
So I know that you did your margarita taste tests.
Yeah.
And now I realized that just in the same way as I believe that Chardonnay needs some oak, I am not a big fan of unoaked Chardonnay. I also believe that tequila needs a little bit of oak. The Blanco on its own, I thought it burns. And you know me and spirits. It is really, it's. I like Irish whiskeys. I've learned to like. I've learned to like some Canadian whiskey. I do like some rums. I am very select. I think I'm more selective in what I like. You seem to like a broader spectrum of spirits than I do.
I'm going
Blanco, I found I could not pick out the flavors that you did in Blanco because all I ended up getting was that heat from the alcohol.
In the context of the tasting, I didn't mind enjoying. I didn't mind sipping on the Blanco on its own, but like in the broader context of having tasted the Reposado and Añejo and an extra Añejo, Blanco would be the bottom of the list. And like, here's the thing: is like if I'm really, really craving a tequila on ice on a hot day, and my host, because it's not going to be me, my host is only going to have a really good Blanco available to drink, I could definitely see that being something enjoyable. But when we do see that oak, like the Blanco is an attack on the palate. The Blanco attacks your palate the way that a really sharp Riesling does. Like it hits hard, but unlike Riesling, it doesn't have that cleansing acidity after because it's alcohol. So it really does bite hard. So when you mix it with something sweet, you mix it with the lime juice, boom, there's your acidity, your palate cleansing acidity. It belongs in a cocktail. It 100% belongs in a cocktail. The Reposado, so we did our steak dinner with the extra Añejo. I've been more than happy to enjoy the steak dinner with a Reposado on ice. And what that time in barrel, and I believe the Los Arango is about 6 months in barrel.
6 months in barrel, nice light yellow color to it.
Yeah.
I was able to pick out both on the nose and on the palate more aromas and flavors than I could on the Blanco.
And that would make sense because you're starting to get the integration from oak. And even though a lot of the oak and like the large oak vessels that they use for Reposado at Los Arango get used many times, it's not like a winery where you'll see like a 40, 50-year-old, I'm forgetting the name for it, but like the really massive oak vessels, like you won't see. Like you'll see those at a winery used for many, many years, for 40, 50 years, blah, blah, blah. And they'll brag about this was a World War II oak vessel that we're still using to ferment stuff. It's just like that doesn't happen at a tequila distillery. They refresh them every so often. I think it was about 10 years at Los Arango. Moving past Reposado, what that time in oak does is it does take some of that edge off. It becomes smoother, it becomes rounder, it becomes creamier, it becomes easier to drink. And then when you add that on ice, where unlike the whiskey world, where you'll see this great debate about drinking it straight up neat, drinking it neat, or drinking it on the rocks, when you're in 35-degree Mexico, a smooth tequila on ice is a welcome respite from hot weather. And
surprisingly, you would not think drinking like a straight spirit on a hot day is the way to go.
Yeah,
but
100%.
Add that ice, add that nice cool sensation across the tongue, and you're really in for something special.
Getting an understanding of Añejo and extra Añejo was a bit of a mind warp for me, though, because as someone who has an appreciation for whiskey, the most sought after whiskeys in the world are things like Pappy Van Winkle, which spends 23 years in a barrel. If we go to the LCBO website and we look for a Glenfarclas 25 or Glenfarclas 30, a distiller that I love but will never be able to afford the bottles, we're talking about whiskeys that cost thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars to get your hands on. The extra Añejo and the Añejo that we tasted, these are tequilas that drink like a whiskey, and these are tequilas I would love to open for whiskey lovers who maybe are skeptical about sipping tequila.
You know, so I tried the anejo. I know that you brought a bottle of extra anejo home, so you're the only one on this podcast who can talk about the extra and what it is. What I liked, so the Los Arango is 13 months, not the year, so it's a month over the year. The light amber color. What I really liked is that there was, vanillas,
yes,
sesame snaps and caramel and spiced orange and toastiness on the anejo that I really just loved, both on the nose and on the palate. It was lovely to sip on. And when I think of one that maybe potentially I would not necessarily throw on ice, although I did prefer it, I could see myself, maybe putting the bottle in the fridge and drinking it cold that way instead of on ice.
You know what?
That's the one that I think I could drink just cold that way.
You know what's funny though is like between you and I, I love barrel proof whiskey. Like, I love whiskey that has a bit of burn, but I always serve my whiskeys on ice. And to see the number of people like I don't think we had a single like glass of tequila in Mexico that wasn't served on ice, so I didn't feel guilty about taking the 99,000 hours, the 90,000 horas extra anejo and serving it on ice when I got it home. Compared to the regular anejo, it's just like drinking an anejo but in 3D. The flavors are even more concentrated, more dense. It's still soft on the palate. It rolls off the back of the tongue. It's a lot of sweet flavors, even though there's not a lot of sugar left in the distillate. Like, it's not a sweet spirit, but it tastes sweet, which is why I compare it to whiskey. And a really nice, like, distinct sort of honey agave note on the finish, which just lets you know, even though this feels and drinks a little like a well-made whiskey, it is in fact tequila.
I think I know.
Okay.
I was still, as much as, see, my experience with tequila is much different than yours.
Yep.
And I think when we talked to Rafael, and we talked to Don Leonardo, telling them about, our two experiences. You were 21 and drinking what you think must have been a mixto. I never had tequila when I was 21. I probably had it, early on in my 30s, just because I had heard so many bad things about tequila that I was like, you know what, I don't need to be that drunk, and I never liked to be drunk. Like, drunk is just out of control. Don't like it, and I can say bad things normally without booze. So
that's fair.
I don't need booze to make me, say dumber things. But when I started drinking and tasting tequila, I could have 3 or 4, and it really wouldn't. It was like being in Mexico. I felt nothing, and I was always wondering why everybody was so scared about tequila. And as Rafael told me, he said it's because, when you were, finally in your 30s, that's when the renaissance of tequila and proper tequila making wasn't just with the sugars. They were actually making tequila. That's why I never dealt with the things that you dealt with.
On that note, talking about a renaissance, before we get to the next part of this episode, I think it's important that we take a moment to thank our sponsors, Los Arango, for bringing us down to Mexico, to giving us this fantastic experience of seeing how artisanal tequila is made. And you can get your little bottle of Mexico right now at the LCBO.
It's not such a little bottle. It's not such a little bottle.
I mean, they could be bigger. I mean, 750 mils, they could be bigger, Michael.
Yeah, and I think we can still go through it quite easily.
The Los Arango Reposado Tequila is $63.15, available at the LCBO now, unless you happen to be listening to this while a limited time offer is taking place, which may very well be the case. So check out lcbo.com. The number is 47316. Read the show notes to figure out how you can get your hands on your own bottle of what Mike and I have been talking about for 3 episodes.
Click the link below.
No, you don't do that on a podcast, Michael.
Oh, you don't? Well, you don't like clicking anywhere? It's in the show notes.
So you talked about the renaissance of tequila, and we were joined by someone who is a part of that renaissance. You heard his voice on the last episode. He was the translator for Don Leonardo. Rafael Berardi is the CEO of Fraternity Spirits. It's a parent company that manufactures Los Arangos tequila. And let's roll the tape about our conversation about where tequila is going. We've just been ordered to start the interview.
We have, and to drink tequila. More tequila.
Rafael, can you give just a quick introduction, your first and last name and title for the transcript?
And what you do.
My name is Rafael Berardi. I'm a Swiss, Mexican, Italian citizen, 35 years in Mexico. And we started the tequila business almost 30 years now with Corralejo.
Well, then I guess the first question I have for you, as a 40-year-old who had his first experience with tequila when he was 19, definitely not younger, ever, but when I was 19, how has the tequila market changed in 30 years?
Well, I give you a good example because tequila market has changed quite a bit. When I started with Corralejo in 1994, let's say 95% of the consumption globally, it was on the mixto tequila, which is 51% agave and 49% other sugars.
Other sugars.
Other sugars.
Okay.
Distillate from other sugars. Okay. So that is the termination for mixto, and that is where usually, if you look back on my student time, you probably looking back on your student time, everybody remembers the headaches that they had over the parties that are going on and maybe too much tequila, whatever, and the hangover you had days away from that night. And so when I started the business, 95% of the sales were mixto, or even more, 99%, because almost everything was mixto. And 100% agave was just a raising from with certain brands that were starting to build up the perception, and we were starting as well. So we started in a new era, starting to convince us as consumer and everybody else to drink 100% agave versus the mixto that gave you the hangovers.
Well, it seems to be working.
Yeah. What changed? What changed that?
Well, I think there's a lot of changes going on in the social way, but obviously one is that the industry started to evolve into a more premiumized concept. Consumers started to grow up as well. Income, lifestyle, and perception of quality has been obviously more and more important to the consumers, and that helped the category to grow, because that is what tequila is today. Tequila is a premium product within a consumer that starts understanding the benefits of 100% agave versus other spirits.
See, I don't think I had that moment back in high school or university.
Never high school, Michael. Only when you were 19.
Oh, sorry, but I never had that moment because I had heard so many bad stories about tequila, which turns out to be this mixto stuff, and that if you were going to drink real tequila, it had to be 100% agave, and so I never got into that until many years after university. I was sitting in a bar and somebody said, "Let's do tequila," and it was real tequila. And
do you remember what it was?
I don't.
Okay.
But because it came, they showed us the bottle, blah blah blah. But I don't remember what it was, and it said tequila, and it was 100% agave. That's what somebody had ordered. And I had like 5 that night, and I was like, I don't feel a thing. I don't know what these people are talking about. And obviously, because I must have been at that point where it's now real tequila, not.
Yeah, you were not experiencing the past.
Yeah, I was in the present, but in the changeover, I guess, period.
Yeah, because when you were at school or when you had the chance to drink tequila in the earlier stage of your life with maybe less income.
And was it called tequila at that time, or was
of course, it was called.
It was called
yeah, it was tequila. You name it. Jose Cuervo, the most sold one in the U.S., probably also in Canada, and that was the standard. You know, everybody was drinking tequila, and they were not even aware about what they're really drinking about. It was just fun, salt, and drink it. That was a little bit the movie style as well. You see, old movies, drink tequila, salt, and lime.
Yeah.
So that was, if you look at the perception, so you could drink gasoline.
Yeah.
By using lime and salt, because those acids, they kill your palate completely. So you would never do that with the wine or something like that, because it's just insane.
I remember the night that I did it. Everybody was doing the lime and the salt thing, and I was like, I don't know what you people are doing. This stuff tastes great.
Well, of course. I mean,
I was taking them as shots, but I was.
Yeah, but you were drinking lime and salt. You were not tasting the liquid.
Yeah.
Because the lime and salt was the main acids you have in your mouth, and the liquid could be theoretically anything.
Well, I'm glad I wasn't part of that.
Yeah, but that is the mindset that the consumers had. Obviously, let's say previous 1995, 2000. That was like, say, the major mindset in the consumers. Tequila is party, hangover,
do it again.
Yeah. All right. So that was like and salt and lime.
Yeah.
That was like the standard, the box that everybody was thinking of tequila. So now we started to introduce, hey, guys, why you don't try something that is real tequila, 100% sugar of agave, distilled in a certain way, as we do it in Corralejo with the copper pot still, and the fermentation process, and so on, with all the technical details to give the consumer this high of an experience that after a bottle you can drink it tonight together, and we'll have tomorrow a wake-up call with no headaches and just be going on for your life as you have to do whatever you have to do. And that is the difference. That is the difference. The higher spirits that you get out of the alcohol and the cleaner the sugars are, the less hangover you have.
So, I mean, that is going to be an issue with tequila in Canada and the United States, is it's a party beverage. And the thing is, like, you've been good enough to bring Michael and I down here to do the tasting. We've just done a tasting. We haven't even been in Guanajuato for 24 hours. We've tasted the reposado. We've tasted the añejo, the blanco. Last night we opened the 99,000 hours tequila that I sipped on with a beautifully cooked skirt steak with some grilled peppers. And honestly,
that is a story to tell, though. We should have him tell that story at some point before we finish this part.
100%. But like, just the whole idea that, like, the way we've been exposed to tequila since we've arrived in Mexico is the same way you would treat whiskey. And the thing is, I'm thinking about my own collection at home. And sorry, no, this is my typical questions, but I am going to get there eventually.
I know.
My wife and I, we drink a lot of whiskey. We've fallen in love with bourbon because Scotch is too expensive. And frankly, American whiskey is starting to get too expensive, but you can still get good value. And I looked at my collection, and I have so many bottles of tequila that have been sent to me as journalists over the years. And I still have them because I like them. And the thing is, I know that I like them. I like a margarita, but I don't think about tequila. What's a message that you would give to Canadians and Americans like me, who has had the bad experience, who has had the party experience with this, to make us change our mind and revisit tequila, so that when I get to that end of the night with my wife and I'm saying, okay, let's have one cocktail before bed, I don't grab a bourbon and throw it on ice. I maybe take a reposado and put it on ice instead. What do you want to say to us?
Well, I have a very good questions, and there is a few answers to it, and definitely one of it, just going back shortly on if you with the females, I can tell you that tequila is aphrodisiac.
Say that again, and louder.
Michael.
Well, it's aphrodisiac. You can, And that obviously makes a good reason to consume it. But it depends, obviously, if you go, as we spoke, on a party drink and do a night long and then overhanging, and based on our experience, and it's not only with tequila, it can be with whiskey, it can be with anything. If you blend products together and the sugars are not very compatible to your body, you will have a definitely hangover, whatever you consume. It doesn't matter if it's tequila, it could be gin, it could be anything. All right, so this is the physical part of a good distilled product that gives you the high in a spirit when you drink it. And if it's as pure as we do it here in Hacienda with Los Arango, it's the high of the spirit that you can perceive, drink, consume, and you can do it before you go have a nightcap with your wife or with your girl or whatever, or you have it after dinner or prior dinner, during dinner. It depends what your food pairing or tasting is. Tequila has this let's say, the facade of the different perception that you can have, and I think you experienced it as well with the 5 cents tasting. So the 5 cents tasting gives you the variety that tequila, in his essence and flavoring profile, has versus a vodka. Because a vodka, you can probably do the same and it wouldn't make any difference. All right, it's just, I mean, then you have only the fruit that pours in or whatever. But here, going back to tequila, this is the reason to drink it. I think, and to consume tequila, it's not only lifestyle, because a lot of entertainers or famous film stars, they have started to do their own tequila for whatever trend or purpose they want to do it, or because they love with tequila itself, because it's a lovely product and it's a good reason to drink it, as long as you like it, such as you decide to drink your whiskey and because of one or the other. But I think beside this all ranges that we have within our universe of decision, I think tequila has something in between whiskey and maybe the varieties of whiskey. So you can have that because you can emerge it from blanco, reposado, and añejo. We can go to an extra añejo, or we can have a cocktail drink. So that gives you a lot of varieties to how to consume it. My personal favorite is neat, and maybe with on the rocks, depending. Now for me, it's more with the hot weather. I prefer it on the rocks.
So I know we had 2 styles of margarita, and then I'll get off the margarita thing. Really, I should ask just about the story behind the 99,000. But we had our first margaritas on the rocks, and you were like, I don't like it this way. And then you had them do it like a slushy, like a crushed ice. Frozen. You call it frozen. So why one over the other, in your opinion? As somebody who makes tequila and obviously drinks margaritas quite a bit, why one over the other, do you feel? And is there a wrong way to have a margarita?
There is no wrong way, absolutely. It's I think 2 things might be influencing. One is the hot weather. And with the hot weather, I like a little bit more ice creamy. And that with the smashed ice, you get that sensorial part of that drink, and makes it for me more appealing to consume. But if you look at from a point of view that you want to have the most effective flavor out of your drink, then it has to be with the rocks as you were drinking it, because that enhances the flavor, particular flavor of the combination of the margarita. So that, for me, is the perfect way to drink. The other one was more for the moment of a hot summer evening and having a little bit this ice creamy flavors with tequila, which was inspiring me to consume it.
I know you alluded to it a little bit. Like, I guess just taking Michael's question to the next point about the lime and the salt, and basically drinking lime and salt and destroying the taste of what you're drinking. Is there a wrong way to drink tequila other than shooting it back, like you said?
Well, it's like evolution, everything. We are here to change our habits. We do probably certain things just because of a routine, because our grandfather and father did the same, and you do it the same. So salt and lime was part of that, let's say, programmed way of consuming it.
Was that also a Mexican way to do it, or
of course.
It was
no.
a way? Okay, so it comes from.
Well, let's go back. Let's go back a little bit, because why do we have cocktails?
Why? No, I'm asking.
Well, I'm looking at you.
I tell you why we have cocktails. Why the cocktails have been involved. It came down to the Prohibition time, and the liquid that was produced at that time was not the highest spirits that you could get. So the way to consume them and to perceive the quality, or not the bad quality of the drink, was to do a cocktail. And that's the way you did cover up the bad part of the alcohol to make it drinkable. That was the origin how the cocktail industry started. But today we are far away of that, because we have elevated spirits and we have clear products that you can consume, and the cocktail industry has started to evolve that part as artistic to combine flavors and do that. But the origin for the cocktail industry was to cover up the bad flavors of the alcohol. That was the origin. And lime and salt had the same effect. The same effect on the tequila that in the earlier times, in the, let's say, 1900s, it was only maybe 5% agave, and the rest was just pure alcohol that you hardly could digest. And that's the way you put salt and lime on it, and drink it and forget about the rest.
All right, so maybe one last question then, at least one last question for me, that to end the interview then, because we've talked now about the evolution of tequila. You've talked about the premiumization of tequila as I'm watching you take a sip of one of the tequilas that you make with no salt, no lime, no anything, not a cocktail. You can get a bottle of Los Arango Reposado tequila from the LCBO for $63.15. As we see tequila continue to evolve, I know for me as a consumer, getting good value is important. And $63.15 is a lot cheaper than I can get a bottle of Lagavulin for. It's a lot cheaper than I can get a bottle of Blanton's Gold for. Like, you're saving money to get a premium spirit. Do we need to worry about the prices of tequila going up as the industry continues to premiumize, or are you going to look after the consumers and try to keep the prices down?
Well, our major objective since we started the business 30 years back was to bring to the consumer a superior product at an acceptable price. In between that period, there has been evolving a lot of brands. They were over expensive by claiming they had a better or a more mature spirit, and obviously it's marketing in base of it, but our goal is to keep the price as close as possible to the, let's say, quality dollar perception. So that is for us most important, because beside the history of Los Arango, beside the quality perception that we look for, and the way of doing it, the history that connects the distillery to the brand, and the way to produce it, the crafting of the bottle, the leather label, the silver plate on the front, everything is put handmade on it. And there's no machine that can do that. And so the quality and people are behind that brand. People they breathe their work, they breathe what they do, and they believe that what they can create is the best way to bring it into that bottle. And from our side, the marketing point, we could probably have it at the double price and people will buy it anyway. But we believe that price raise versus consumer perception of quality should be somewhere where we are at the moment. So it's a little bit more, a little bit less, whatever. That is the benchmark that we see our products. And then, obviously, there is the marketing aspects that you look at, which is your competitors or what they do, what not. But we believe in our work. We believe in the crafting part, and you see it here in the Hacienda Corralejo. Everything is made with the heart and the sweat of the people.
So I would like to end with just the story behind 99,000. That was the tequila that we ended our evening with. You put it on the rocks, which was kind of interesting.
It was nice it was really nice on ice in the hot weather with a really nice cut of meat.
But what is the story behind 99,000?
Sorry, and it's 99,000 hours is the name of it, right?
Hora. 99,000
Yes,
hora.
absolutely. 99,000 hours, I think, is when we started with the idea. It is in that period of the last 29 years. At one point, we realized that the consumers were not aware of how much it takes to make tequila. Because the slammer culture, the drinking habit of mixto, whatever, it was just overwhelming. And the idea came down and say, why we don't use the time that it takes to make the product, to put it on the bottle with the full story on the back of the label that gives you full information from the day that you put the seed into the earth, cultivate the agave. After 7 years, you harvest the piña. Then you start the production process, as we know, cutting it, cooking it, and aging it. And all together was built together to make 99,000 hours as it's not an extra añejo, but it's an añejo at least for 18 months, aged for 18 months. So together 99,000 hours, if you count that into years, it's somewhere around 11 years. And nobody is really aware when you take a sip of that, and there is no spirit in the world, that you have to wait 11 years before you can sip it.
Thank you for your time, Raphael.
My pleasure. Salud.
Salud.
One more very big thank you to Interbev GmbH and Hacienda Corralejo for this once-in-a-lifetime experience to see how tequila is made, see how artisanal tequila is made. I now know the difference between mixto and proper tequila, Michael, revisiting some of the errors of my youth.
Yeah, I don't think I had those errors in my youth, thankfully. I'm glad I got onto the tequila bandwagon when, good tequila was out there.
Yeah.
I have to be honest.
Well, and even though this podcast is sponsored content, I can say without a doubt, Los Arango is definitely good tequila.
I thought it was amazing tequila. It's not at all what I expected. I've had what I thought was good tequila. I've had what I thought was okay tequila before, but this was exceptional tequila, and a lot of people talk about the headaches that you can get just from like one or two shots of tequila. We mentioned we had a couple of margaritas on one night, and we had we drank it straight out of a glass with ice. I felt fine the next morning, just wonderful, and it was like we weren't drinking copious amounts. But you always hear people saying, "Oh, I had 2 tequila and I felt terrible the next day."
Yeah, I mean, the one thing that I really enjoyed was seeing how much tequila is a part of the culture, how much it means to the Mexican people. We also got a sneak peek of something that was really interesting as well, like a tequila coffee liqueur that should be making its way to the market at some point.
That was probably some of the best tequila I've had, because I do like, as you have learned over the years, I do like a little flavor, namely butterscotch. But we won't go into that.
It's not
that
flavor.
story
It's the sugar. It's the sugar. You like your spirit sweet. Like just put it this way: like your wine dry and your spirit sweet.
But that was one. It was dry, but and I love the smell of coffee, but I'm not a coffee drinker. People are always shocked that I'm not a coffee drinker. At like winemakers dinners and things like that. When I go to Italy, they go, "Of course you want the cafe," and I'm like, "No." So they're all shocked by that. And but I really liked this coffee tequila. I thought it was great, and it's real beans
made with Mexican coffee that we saw them roasting on site when we were at the distillery.
Yeah, that was really neat. I love that smell too. Right, I really love that roasting coffee smell. It was really, really great.
All right, time to put this thing to bed. Make sure you grab a bottle of Los Arangos tequila to have a little bit of Mexican influence as part of your summer. Drink it on ice. Drink it in a margarita. And I'm André Prufroll, underwinereview.ca.
And I'm Michael Pincus of michaelpincuswinereview.com. André, I think this time you should take us away because your Spanish is much better than mine.
Buenos noches.
Thanks for listening. Please subscribe to Two Guys Talking Wine on iTunes.
Two Guys Talking Wine is produced by Jim Ray, Adam Duran, and Ken Little.